Hello everyone. Today we shall be talking about balance between rights and responsibilities. Before we delve into this concept, let me tell you the story of my nephew who is 4 years old. Feeling bored, he would approach me and other members of the family to engage in play with him. However, when he sits down to play, he determines all the rules of the game and he only decides who is out of the game. Of course, since he is the rule maker, he himself never gets out of the game. At his age, he only understands that he has the right to choose what kind of game he wants to play and who he wishes to play it with. But he does not understand that no matter which game he chooses to engage in, he also has to abide by the rules of the game. At one moment or the other in life, if we observe close enough, we will notice an uncanny similarity between ourselves and the 4-year child in question here. We are vocal about our rights, but we forget that all rights entail certain duties or responsibilities. In fact, rights and responsibilities are two sides of the same coin. We will try to decipher this link between rights and responsibilities at 3 levels: at the philosophical level, at the institutional level, and at the personal level. At the philosophical level, our Indian literature abounds with texts which propagate the idea of dharma. Dharma has often been wrongly translated as religion. A more appropriate term would be duty or moral obligations that every individual must discharge in accordance with his position in the society. For example, there is an instance in Ramayana where Lakshmanji is injured by the fatal blows of Ravan's army. At that point, with the help of Vibhishan, Hanumanji brings Ravan's loyal doctor, Vaidya Sushen, to their camp. Despite being the royal doctor in Ravan's court, Vaidya Sushen prioritizes his dharma of being a doctor, that is, to help the wounded in spite of his affiliation, and heals Lakshmanji of his ordeal. While modern discourse is charged with discussions on rights which are seen as individual entitlements, our Bhagavad Gita goes as far as to say that one has to fulfill one's duty or responsibility without getting attached to the results. Everyone in India knows the story of Arjun. In the battlefield, when he is unable to launch his arrows against his own cousins, it is Lord Krishna who encourages him to embrace his Kshatriya dharma, even though the immediate consequences that it entails may not seem pleasant to him. Similarly, as students, when you study and write your exams, your grades may not be proportional to the amount of work you put in and may not reflect your efforts immediately. But it remains your duty to continue doing the right work irrespective of results. In continuation with this idea of balance between rights and duties, our philosophical texts say that when people act in alignment with their duties, they help maintain harmony in society, and failure to do one's duty can lead to chaos and disorder. For example, entrepreneurs have the right to make profits through their business. Their dharma includes treating employees fairly, paying wages on time, and contributing to societal welfare. Companies that maximize profits while exploiting workers or damaging the environment violate this principle. In the long run, the negative consequences of such practices become evident, and everyone involved has to pay a huge price for it. In Western philosophy also, thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre have deliberated upon the idea of individual freedom and responsibility. For them, true freedom cannot be exercised unless you take the responsibility of your actions and be prepared for their consequences. Encouraging authenticity in practicing freedom, they give example of a so-called authentic citizen. An authentic citizen is someone who acknowledges complicity in societal problems, while also recognizing his or her power to act. They don't excuse inaction by saying one vote doesn't matter, nor do they assume individual action will alone solve all systemic issues. Talking of the authentic citizen, we come to our second level, that is, rights and responsibilities at the institutional level. In our country, we are governed by the Constitution of India, which is the supreme law of the land. It guarantees not only a set of fundamental rights to its citizens, but also imposes certain duties and responsibilities among them. Young listeners who listen to our program will already know that there are 6 fundamental rights enshrined in the Indian Constitution. These rights include right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. Similarly, the Constitution lays down 11 fundamental duties for its citizens, which serve as a constant reminder of their role in nation building. These 11 duties are as follows: to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem, to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so, to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, regional, or sexual diversities, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures, to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform, to safeguard public property and to abjure violence, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. And finally, to provide opportunities for education to their child or ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. We can see very clearly how our fundamental rights and fundamental duties are intertwined. Our right to equality shall cease to exist if we do not follow our duty of promoting harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional diversities. A contemporary debate going on in the country is of linguistic chauvinism. We have been reading how in some states of India, people are being mistreated if they fail to speak in regional languages. Such incidents reflect our collective failure as a society. Not only the right to equality and the cultural rights of the victims are curtailed, but also the culprits fail as citizens of this great nation as they choose violence over harmony and do not value the rich heritage of our composite culture. In a democratic setup like ours, we vote for our government and can even criticize their actions through peaceful means. But it also becomes then our responsibility to stay informed about political and social issues and participate in democratic process beyond just voting. Or consider the right to freedom of expression, which has become paramount with the prevalence of social media apps. Citizens have the right to express opinions online, but they also have the duty to verify information before sharing and avoiding hate speech. The risk of fake news shows what happens when rights are exercised without corresponding responsibilities. Consider now the right to constitutional remedies. It is your right to approach the courts for justice. At the same time, you're expected to respect judicial decisions and not misuse legal processes. For example, if you are an environmental activist, under the right to constitutional remedies, you have the right to use PIL, that is public interest litigation, regarding protection of forests. Yet it is also your duty to adopt sustainable practices in your day-to-day life in accordance with the fundamental duties. Yes, access to a clean environment is our right. Along with it comes our responsibility to reduce personal carbon footprint. If we as citizens demand government action on pollution while continuing to use private vehicles unnecessarily or wasting water, then our demands cannot be totally justified. At a personal level also, we have to ensure the balance between rights and responsibilities, not only to become a good citizen, but also a good human being. Since this is the time for admissions in various universities across the country, I speak particularly to young learners. to tell them that you must be jubilant right now about beginning a new phase of your life. You're finally 18, which makes you an adult in this country, and you are now free to make your own decisions, starting with the decision of studying a program of your choice. At this moment, let me give you a reminder about your responsibilities up towards yourself, towards your family, towards your parents who have toiled day and night to send you to the most reputed institutions in the country. It is your responsibility to study meticulously and master the subject of your choice. It is also your responsibility to take good care of your health and not get into bad habits as you stay in hostels away from your families. It is again your responsibility to regularly attend your class, since this is the only work required of you at this stage of your life. To make yourself aware of your career opportunities and start preparing for them early on is also your responsibility entirely. Freedom that comes with adulthood encourages you to be more vocal about your rights. And that consciousness is also much required because the young energy can fix and eradicate a lot of prevalent problems that the older generation becomes complacent to. Yet at the same time, as we have mentioned throughout this discussion, rights cannot be exercised until the responsibility associated with them are fulfilled. True adulthood, whether at 18 or 80, comes not from asserting rights, but from understanding that every right we enjoy exists because others have fulfilled their responsibilities. And our own rights can only be sustained if we fulfill our duties. The balance between rights and responsibilities is not just a philosophical ideal. It is a practical necessity for building a harmonious society where individual freedom coexists with collective welfare. As young adults step into their roles as full citizens, their challenge is to channel their energy and idealism into this balanced approach, becoming agents of positive change while honoring their obligations to family, community, and nation. Thank you.